He tweeted that he had lined up financing to take Tesla private.
Claim because it never materialized, they lost billions.
What's the temperature?
I'm Stacey Lynn.
Today's not
News, weather,
traffic. 95.9 WATD.
95.9 WATD.com.
Anna, no one's going to want a snowbird to Anna for the woods.
I didn't hear you say that again.
No one's going to want a snowbird where we live.
Oh, you're right. Like I was actually just noticing my plants. I'm like, oh my God, they look like they're dying. Because my office is all windows. It's cold in here. Like I have the heat, but like, you know, it's cold in here. And yeah, my poor plants.
Did Michelle say if she was joining us?
She didn't text me back yet.
Okay. Well, she can always join in late if she needs to, so.
There's going to be a wonderful event on the 21st. The Brockton area chapter of the NAACP will host their annual Rotate Breakfast. That's actually Lombardo's.
Yeah. Oh, I can hear myself.
And I can't hear me. I'm not.
Maybe your microphone.
Event that I personally attend over at Lombardo's.
It's the 37th annual revenue.
Oh, did the Flyers get?
Sharon, I saw your back channel on Clubhouse
6 Billing Street and Randolph. More information
about other invites, and Michelle said I would keep it to just us. I would agree with her.
Okay. All right. I don't know him that well, so I'll leave that up to you guys.
Yeah, give it a minute and you'll never question that again.
Okay, there we go. Now I can hear myself. Yeah, perfect. What was that, Mel?
Your microphone.
Oh, it was. Okay, perfect. Oh, that makes me feel a lot better.
Competitively priced electricity.
Yay. Roo, what's it like in Orlando?
It's kind of meh today.
So letters will be sent to residents.
I wish I could show you what I'm looking at if you want to hear, if you want to see what meh looks like.
No, it looks like Chicago winter outside. I'm sure it isn't, but that kind of gray.
I messaged you, Roo, on here about like I'll be in Orlando in May. Maybe we can meet.
When are you going to be here?
We'll still have
May.
Eversource.
I'm down. Oh, let me take off my
flyer as opposed to the distributor.
Yeah, totally, man. I love that.
I need some makeup. I feel so white. I have no lipstick on.
Okay, so you got to go into your filters. Go into your filters and put makeup on for your video filter.
That's why when you join the South Shore YMCA this
How do you do that?
Okay, so go to the little video and the little
place to be healthy, active, and
arrow on the right.
Together.
You mean to tell me you don't have lipstick on right now?
Oh no, I totally have lipstick on. I totally did my makeup.
Where everyone in the family can find their way.
And then you can change your background too. So if you want to put in a picture, like my background is a picture of.
Yeah, but then I gotta go find a picture. I don't have time for that.
Swimming pools.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Aqua fitness,
on her
family
phone.
activities, inclusive and adaptive
Oh,
programming,
wait,
and
the wrong
so
thing. You're
much
saying
more.
go to video. All right,
Yeah, go to the little.
There's too much noise on my ADD.
Find
Like
the place where you, your family, and friends truly.
You know,
I'll tell you about it
you're
later.
literally the same person because when you talk about your
We'll
ADD.
do it later.
If you refer a friend, you can both save 20% each month. Visit ssymca.org for
windows
details.
are so
Find
blurry.
your
Like
why at the South Shore YMCA. The better you
Are
belong
they?
is here.
All right, welcome back to the weekend news. And we're going to check out the roads. They're in pretty good shape at the moment, although the express.
Michelle's got her drive-through food ready.
To a crash in
For
the
what?
southbound. Looking
Oh,
good,
nice.
Getting out
Yeah.
of Boston.
I don't
Moving
think
quite
it's-
up and down the South Shore, lower end of 93 and 128. You have a speed limit
You
rise.
should see how hot it is. Because one time I took a sip out and it burned my
24 and
whole mouth.
95 good to go to and from Rhode
What
Island.
is the weather in Orlando right now?
Again, for the long-term work project, they will
do
reopen
you
the
like?
Sumner 5 a.m. Monday morning. Also, the Orange Line, the Haymarket stop is closed over the weekend. All of the airport tunnels are fine at the moment, but expect some backups through the
let's see.
throughout the day, leaving Logan in the Ted Williams westbound. And now here is your local weather.
We're slowly going to be getting
64.
rid of the clouds that brought all the rain and a little bit of snow
And
our
it's
way.
only gonna get up to
Welcome
today.
to our studio here.
Clouds will slowly be yielding to peaks of
like
increasing
your
amounts of
studio.
sunshine as we
Thank
go
you.
through the
Very
midday and
pretty.
into the afternoon. The high
I want a
36
studio.
degrees.
This is cool too, like this thing here.
About 8 to 15 miles
Watch.
per hour. Overnight tonight becomes partly cloudy and
It's
rainy.
actually, yeah, isn't that the best?
Low 20.
Oh my God.
Sunday,
I
look at
need
the
that for
sunshine
my
in the morning,
windows,
the
'cause
clouds
Yeah, I got them online. There's a company online, so they're just,
away.
so when they're up and rolled away, you
Enough
can't even
for
notice
rain
it.
to
Really.
develop for the late afternoon and into the
Awesome.
evening.
So,
Highs on Sunday,
and
right
then,
around
so when the
40.
agents are gonna use this room
Along
as
with
like
this warmth
podcasting,
comes some gusty
they'll
winds
change,
as
these are
well
just
this time,
canvases.
As periods of
So
rain
this is
Monday
all
night
soundproof
into
like this
Wednesday
work
morning,
there, so they can
starting to
change out the
back to rain
canvas.
showers Monday
But we're gonna get a
afternoon.
green screen for up there,
To
so
the
we can
out
just
to the
pull
southeast,
that down.
gusting as much
love
as 40
And then we'll
degrees
be able to adjust the
45 miles per
cameras,
hour at
but you
times.
can't really see it.
Highs on Monday.
We have
in
to
the
talk
low 40s.
offline,
And
Sharon.
then it dries
I'd
out.
love
We're back to
to
sunshine for
create a
Tuesday
setup
with
like
high
that, so
temperatures
the
Yeah.
transparent agent and these other things I'm
For
doing.
WATD, I'm
Yeah.
precision weather forecast.
And we have like a whole board and everything that you can't see that like goes through everything. What I've been trying to do is figure out how I can get this through to Clubhouse. So, but I haven't been able
Talk
to.
Real Estate
So
with
I'm-
Sharon McNamara, sponsored by Boston
Ready to go,
Connect
ladies?
Real
Hi,
Estate Services.
You're on mute.
Hi, I'm Sharon McNamara, and you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable.
All
Let me
of you
share a
are
little bit about my
unmuted, right?
background before we
Should be
get
unmuted.
started. I am the broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, a
Turn me up a
boutique
little.
real estate firm that is home to over 30 real estate sales and marketing consultants who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my real estate team member, Mary Baker, and I, along with the director of Boston Connect Real Estate, Melissa Wallace, provide you with our unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We like to mix it up sometimes, so not only will you hear our perspective on real estate topics, but you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of some of our real estate agents at Boston Connect Real Estate and the preferred professionals that we
It's
trust.
just the studio.
Be part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We'd love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team or one of the dedicated agents at Boston Connect Real Estate to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with us at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And hello to all my South Shore neighbors. This is Sharon McNamara, and you are, of course, listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable here on a Saturday morning. Woke up to a little bit of snow on the ground. I'm not looking forward. I just don't like it. So yeah, that was sort of not a pleasant surprise for me this morning, but I am in studio this morning. We have Melissa Wallace. My everything is here with me. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I like to look at the snow. I don't like to touch it. I don't do anything with it.
I don't
just like to look at my car. No, I don't want to get off my car. I don't want to drive in it. I don't want nothing. So I can get like a chauffeur and just drive me around. There's someone to clean off my car every day.
Let's work on that. That should be our goal for this year. Yeah. So we can have chauffeurs.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right. Sounds good to me too. Really excited about our show. A couple weeks ago, we tried and attempted this, but we had a little difficulty with a couple things here with equipment, but hey, that happens. And my guest was so pleasant to just understand that things like that happen when you go live. So we had Mark Viatel. I can't say his last name.
Yeah, I can't say it either.
Yeah,
I was looking at the guest's last name. I don't think it's easy either. But yeah, he was on from Imperial Inspection Services, the owner now. Right?
He's the owner now, yeah. So we were talking about home inspections. It actually works, everything works out for a reason,
Well, I don't know if you listened to the show on Tuesday, but I did reveal that I'm looking for a house and that I did have something under agreement in December because we had Jasmine on and Mary's talking about her experience. I'm like, all right, listen, everyone. I have my own experience with Jasmine too. Yeah, my phone was freaking out. So we played it off like it's a little secret, but yeah, Mark actually did my home inspection on that house. So, and we did reveal that I walked away after home inspection, but yeah, Mark was great.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
So it worked out perfect though, because we had so much time that we spent with him that we probably wouldn't have had a good opportunity to really dig into what we want to dig into. So we're, again, you're listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you have any questions about real estate in general, we have 3 wonderful agents with us. Looks like we're sort of freaking out there on Zoom. So I don't know what's going on with us, but we'll try to fix that in a second. So we are, going to talk to a few agents from around the country, actually. So we're all sort of East Coasters over here. So I'm going to give each one of them an opportunity to introduce themselves. And what we're going to talk about is pre-home inspections.
Yeah.
So do you think that that's a good idea? And it's different everywhere because I have my opinions. I have to see if these ladies can change my mind.
Well, just before they introduce themselves, I'm sorry, ladies, but what you've always sort of talked about is, you know, you like to go to conferences on the West Coast because whatever happens on the West Coast sort of comes over to the East Coast.
Yeah.
So sort of being ahead of the game. But with this topic, they're not very common here in Massachusetts, pre-home inspection. And so it's interesting that all of these women, you know, sort of are for pre-home inspections, or I guess we'll talk about that. And we're all sort of on the East Coast. So it's interesting because they're just so uncommon here.
Yeah. And too, we'll get into a little bit about that is just the liability that we see from it. So maybe every state has different requirements when it comes to, you know, disclosure and things like that.
Yeah.
And I know I was listening a little bit while I was getting ready this morning on Clubhouse, and that's how I know all these wonderful women. And there was a little conversation about seller disclosures and things like that. So I think we're going to get into that. So again, if you are listening this morning, thank you for joining us again. But Tim is in studio. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
So if you have any questions for us or for any of our lovely members here that are joining us, 781-837-4900 is the number to the studio. And Tim can get you through to us if you have any questions regarding this or comments about it. Also, you want to tell everybody where they can find us on social media?
Yeah, we are live on Facebook. So if you go to Boston Connect Real Estate or McNamara Broker Team, or if you are a lucky member of one of the Connect pages, so Pembroke Connect, Marshfield, Hanover, all those fun pages, you can see us. So if you're a little shy and don't want to call into the studio, you can comment on Facebook or send us a text, and we'll answer your question, or we'll say hi back if that's all you want to say.
That's good. All right, so let's take a turn here. So if you are watching us on Facebook, you can see us. We sort of look like, what is that show? Like, well, it used to be Brady Bunch, but there was more of them. And then remember that game in like you did tic-tac-toe?
Oh, yeah.
Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood Squares, yeah. Hollywood Squares. Hollywood Squares. So why don't we start up in the top left-hand corner here? We have Roo from Orlando. And Roo, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and the area that you're servicing.
Well, I am down the street from the mouse. Mickey and I, we go way back. Probably like I've lived in Orlando for probably 30 years.
Wow.
I've had a wonderful introductory to real estate through the auspices of timeshare, and truly trained me for the wild and crazy of 2021 and 2022 when I became a residential real estate professional. And I thoroughly enjoy working on the residential side. It's sometimes it's more entertaining than timeshare. Not always. There's good stories on both sides.
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
Oh yeah, it's always an adventure in Orlando. And it is true, we did invent the Florida Man. For those of you that are not aware, the Florida Man is someone in Florida who does something wild and crazy, and it is newsworthy, sometimes makes it on the national news. And we're always known for doing something, not quite right. So I love living here. It's a good time.
I went to college in Florida, so I went to Florida Southern. So I spent some time down there. A lot of my friends still live around in Orlando and are buying houses there. So it's not a referral. I can send them over too. So that's fun.
Absolutely. And so because I live where I live, I have the pleasure of working with investors that are trying to get their piece of the mouse, if you will, and get Airbnb style properties. I also work with folks that are relocating. We've had about 100 people a day moving to Orlando for years. It kind of crept up during the post COVID 2020 year because everybody could work from home.
Mm.
And they thought, why not live in Florida where I can have a great place to work from home at? And so we've had a major influx. We're still reeling from that. And I end up serving anywhere from Daytona to kind of Lakeland and anywhere in between. So I've got all we call it the Greater Central Florida area because it is the Greater Central Florida area. So I ask me if I don't serve it, I know someone who does.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of that mouse. I don't like rides, the whole thing. It's weird. You walk through Disney World, there's not like one single like paper wrapper on the floor, on the ground. I don't know if it's girl in me that's just like, you know what I mean? I just don't trust it. I don't trust that everything is perfect here. I don't know.
Well,
I feel the same way. So, let's go down to Anna. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody where you are?
Hey, good morning. I'm Anna Abbatemarco. I'm in Chester County, Pennsylvania, but I'm also going to be sending Sharon a DNA kit because seriously, every time we chat, the similarities are ridiculous. If we're not related, down to the fact that you don't pronounce your R's in the word here either. I heard it when you said here instead of here. But aside from that, I've been selling real estate here in Chester County, which we're about 40 minutes west of Philly. So we're in the lovely suburbs outside of the Philly area. And this is my 11th year in selling real estate in this area. And I love the topic about pre-home inspections because I've been encouraging my sellers to do so for the last 7 years. And like you, my coaches were always on the West Coast. I don't know what it is about Laguna Beach, Newport, where else are they? I swear, I think all the real estate coaches like have the same zip code and location in California, no less, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that we're smart to recognize what's going on the West Coast, because in reality, you know, we're still in a very, very tight point. In my zip code alone, 0.6 months of inventory. You know, we don't even have 1 month worth of inventory in this area, yet everything I'm hearing from my West Coast friends, very different. Like you, here in Pennsylvania, pre-home inspections are not the norm. However, why not us be the people who bring the norm to the things that should be the norm? Because what has happened in the last couple of years is ridiculous, insane.
Mm-hmm.
As a listing agent, I can say that even for me, I didn't like it. Now, yes, 99, actually I have to say 100. I can't remember the last time we accepted an offer where they did elect to do their own inspections. However, 98% of all my listings do the pre-inspection. Now, I don't require it from my homeowners. I do encourage it. And there are 1 or 2 reasons and times where it really doesn't have much value. Nonetheless, because of it, buyers have always waived the inspection contingency period. I'm talking about the buyers who waived it with no inspection done. What agents need to understand, and I hope that we get to in this conversation, at least here in the state of Pennsylvania, PAR put out a stat for last year that there was a 42% increase in mediation requests. Now, they're not saying that all 42% were from inspections, right? There are some other reasons why a buyer might, want mediation and have a claim on something. That stat will come out soon enough. But that just gives you an indication how many buyers after the fact are finding something wrong with the home. They waived their right, sure, yet that doesn't prevent a seller from being responsible for something they didn't or forgot to disclose on the seller's disclosure, or maybe intentionally, we're hiding that thing. And then the buyer calls the contractor in. And the contractor's like, hey, yeah, I was here with Mr. Smith 6 months ago. I told him he needed to fix ABC, and he decided to just do the $50 job. And well, I guess I'm back to do something that should have been done in the first place. anyway, I'll stop there. Anything else you need to know about my area specifically, or let's just jump right into Michelle and.
Yeah, we're going to jump over to Michelle, but you make some very, very good points there too. And I 100% want to get into that. I was actually just appointed to be on the grievance committee for the state of Massachusetts. So I was on the local board, but now I'm on the state board, and we already have our first case that is coming up, and we 100% are going to see more and more of this. And we recently went sort of fancy. It was sort of fancy. We were there we're like, how did we get invited to this? But one of the local companies, actually, Pete Fakaizen from Cross Country Mortgage, brought us to an event where Tom Ferry had a coach there. I actually did a night thing with, I think it was with Michelle and Roo. We did a nighttime thing on Clubhouse with things I learned, but the stat they gave was 72% of people who purchased in 2020 and 2021 are having buyer's remorse and regret. And it was because they felt forced into it or rushed into it. And you know what it was? It was momentum. And Anna, just like you, I was so uncomfortable. I was calling that time and period reckless. It was completely reckless. It made me anxious. We were getting offers on properties above asking before an agent would even ask us if we had other offers. So it was just crazy. So we'll definitely dive deep into that. But first, let's talk to Michelle. So we have Michelle Meinhart here. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody where you're from and the areas that you service?
Hello, all. Michelle from Atlanta, Georgia. I primarily service South Forsyth and North Fulton County. So that's like 45 minutes, 30 minutes, depending. Well, it could be 3 hours from the airport, depending on what time you make the trip. But yeah, I've just enjoyed getting to know you, Sharon and Anna and Roo, in our clubhouse rooms. And Anna is really my inspiration for doing these pre-inspections. And since I have started them, I have found the flow of the whole transaction to just go so much more smoothly for the buyer and the seller. And they are not the norm in Atlanta. It is not something that you normally see. And when I tell the buyer's agent that I have, the pre-inspection, would you all like to see it? I'll send it over right now with the seller's disclosure and the community association disclosure. They are just so excited like that. They're like, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. And it just, from the first time I say it, it just puts everything on a very transparent vibe, and trust is built, and they just appreciate the listing agent going above and beyond the average bear and providing that. So I can't wait to talk about this a little bit more with y'all.
And I didn't ask, Roo, is this something that you practice as well? Or you encourage your clients to do pre-home inspections?
Oh.
We're on the stage there then. Yeah. So this will be interesting, this conversation. And I remember listening to Clubhouse, and Michelle had said it was Anna that, changed her mind. So this will be good. Yeah.
I don't know that Anna changed my mind, because I didn't even know it was a thing. Like, Anna put it on my radar. Like, it wasn't even on my radar before I heard Anna start talking about it. And to me, the most important thing we can have with our clients is that they trust us. And so it just puts everything, for me personally, since I've been using it for the past year, I just really feel like it's a win-win for everybody.
I actually have a question for Roo. So with the inspections in Florida, are you supposed to, as a buyer, are you required to have a home inspection, or did I make that up in my head?
No, you're never required. To be fair, even when the market was wild and crazy and people were waiving inspections, my next door neighbor, they bought a house from someone they trusted and didn't do an inspection, and it ended up being riddled with mold. And their realtor did not encourage them to get one and said it'll be fine. And they ended up selling the house completely gutted with no bathrooms except for one toilet that was working because the insurance would not cover all of the damage. And I've never been someone that would encourage or allow a buyer to buy something without doing an inspection, even if there was an inspection available. But I've, in my lovely history, I mean, I don't have 20 years, but never come across a seller that had done a pre-inspection either. We are a disclose all state. I'm not sure about dead bodies, but I am certain about everything that is in the house. So that could be part of the reason that they're not doing pre-inspections. But yeah, I would never encourage and highly discourage waiving the inspection. However, you do not have to have an inspector come in and inspect the property during your inspection time frame. If you are if you have an out-of-state buyer that wants to see it before they do the inspection, things like that, that's our get out of jail free card, the inspection. So if we are in that time frame, no matter how many days, we do not have to disclose why we might not want to be involved in the contract any longer. In that time, we can walk away.
You don't have to tell the buyer, you don't have to tell the listing agent why you're not going forward. You can just say because of home inspection and just move on.
No, you don't even say that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, during the inspection period time frame, you can walk away with no reason.
Same in Georgia. You can say the blade of grass is too dark and walk away.
Really?
Yeah. My broker says whenever we're doing that, there is actually no space on the cancellation form to say why. It's just undone.
Okay.
But only during that time frame. After that,
And I wonder too, that might be a way to protect the seller, because with us, when we don't have to, they have to use it like I am not going forward or I'm not proceeding forward based on the home inspection results. And sometimes agents will send us that, they'll try to send us that report. And I'm always like, oh, put the brakes on. I'm not opening it. I don't want to see it. I'm not disclosing that there's like a loose doorknob anywhere. So every state, has different requirements, but I'm wondering if that's one of the ways to protect the seller, because, hey, you want out, just go out. Because that's how I feel too. If the buyer doesn't want it, let's move on. Let me find another buyer at this point. Right. So, yeah. All right, so let's get down to what we want to really talk about. So, Anna, why don't you start with, what you feel that this is a really, really good idea for sellers to do?
Well, I can tell you why I began encouraging my sellers, and it was about 7-8 years ago, where I had a couple with a lovely home. The husband was retired military. He had a place for everything and everything in its place. I mean, this house was just pristine. And when it came time to inspecting the septic, excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. So for those of you who live in the world of public water and don't understand septic systems, let's just say neither did I. I came from row housing in Brooklyn, right? The idea that the septic lived on your property was so baffling to me. But here we are, I'm selling this house with septic system, and we're in the inspection contingency period. The buyer comes to do what they were actually doing was a hydraulic load test, which is more extensive than the generic or average septic inspection. The average septic inspection is really just to determine whether or not the septic system is working, right? The hydraulic load test is to determine if it's working to its full capacity, right? So what do? They come in and they pump water in a 24-hour span, right? To see that if, 4 people were living in the home and laundry was going and showers were being taken and all the things, that the septic system would pump properly. Well, they had a failed septic report. And when we received this, I said to my sellers, just on a hunch, and my gosh, I'd hate for you to spend more money, because right now these buyers are asking for a $30,000 credit. And by credit, I mean, yes and no, it actually had to be done before settlement because the mortgage company won't even escrow or allow for financing most. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines, generally speaking, not always, on average, the majority answer from the lender is going to be, oh no, that system needs to be installed before we can close, right? So it was going to cost about $30,000. Well, I said to my sellers, look, the hydraulic load test back then, I don't know, $600-700 it was, maybe now it's about $800 or so. I hate to add insult to injury and suggest that you do your own test before you go through all this, right? Because you might be out 30,000 plus another 600 or 700. Yet if it were my home, I'd have to know. I would just have to know the reality of. And so of course they did. We had our guy, and lo and behold, you know where the story is going. It passed. So what I encouraged the buyer agent to do, I called him up. I said, listen, I know how to sell a home, but hey, you know, septic, I still wasn't all that familiar with the understanding, the mechanics of it and whatever. I said, why don't we invite our inspectors, yours and mine, to the home with the sellers and the buyers, and let them explain to us who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah.
And so the buyer agent called me back and he said, well, our inspector declined the invite and said, well, if it passed, it passed. Okay. So needless to say, after that situation, what I began to do is share that story with my future sellers and say, here's what happened. And here's what I'm realizing, that look, the best way to sell a home is absolute full disclosure. And that's also where the transparent agent thing started coming and why I've been coined, you know, the whole full disclosure, right? And I'm all about that, in that if you want certainty in your offer, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because that's what you're angling for, right? You want the cleanest offer with the highest price, and you want to know that that buyer that we attracted today, they are going to show up at that settlement table. And the price that we agreed on today, that is the price that's going to be on that final sheet, and things are going to go easily and smooth. That's what you are looking for. Is that not right? Yes, we want easy. We want, you know, no nonsense, all the things. Great. Then provide that. Provide that to the buyer and say, here's my beautiful home that you just came through. And especially in this ridiculous market, you know, 20 people are going to make an offer on it. You know, they're going to give up their next born child for the offer, and God forbid. But you know what I'm saying? They just got really ridiculous. Well, here's another piece of value and information. Here is a pre-home inspection done exactly the same way that it would be done for a buyer by an OSHI certified home inspector. And the front letter of the inspection report even says that, dear Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you know, here's all the information. This is the same report we would have done for you as a buyer that the seller has paid for us to do. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the report. In fact, we'd even come back to the property and go over the material defects with you. And if the sellers have fixed anything since then, we'd be happy to confirm or deny that that indeed was done. How much better can it get than giving that kind of certainty to the buyer, which in turn gives the sellers a ton of certainty in the offers that they receive?
And that's interesting with your story, because around here we have septic systems as well, and we call it a Title V report, and our sellers are the ones that do that report. But there have been times, actually, I did have a seller one time that he was an attorney actually too. He tried to lie about his report, and I actually caught him. It was actually my other team member, Mary, who isn't with us today. She had one report, I had the other report. Mine said that it passed, hers said that it failed. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I got this from the seller. Where did you get yours? She's like, Town Hall. He didn't know that it was already recorded at Town Hall. So we were able to call him out on that. And I said, hey, here's how it works. You know, you are leaving the state of Massachusetts and you're going, I think he was going to maybe South Carolina or someplace. I'm staying here, and this is my reputation in my career. So yeah, he had to do a whole new system, and we had to get it in within like a few days, which was interesting. So Michelle and Roo, do you have septic systems where you are as well?
Yes, there are certain places. In fact, I bought a home for my daughter that had a septic tank, and that was that was an interesting time. It doesn't cost as much as it does to replace them up north, though.
Yeah.
This Brooklyn
Yeah.
girl does live on a house with septic, well and septic, so you know, depending where you live, it just, it is what it is, but sorry.
We-
go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, we do too. It's more in, I don't want to say rural, but you know, you're gonna find that more in the country in Atlanta. You're gonna find it on bigger plots of land and
Seller the inspection for that normally? Does the seller do your inspections, or is that something that you just suggest now?
for me,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
The seller.
Yeah,
does-
yeah.
Okay.
For my listings, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, but it's not a common thing.
It really isn't, huh?
No,
Would
no.
the seller normally do the inspection for the inspection for Title V for you, or septic?
We don't know. In fact, what we ended up finding when we did the inspection at my property is that there were 2 septic tanks, and the seller had installed a new one because the old one was so old. This was a very old home. And when the only reason I found out that there were 2 is because when I personally hired a septic inspector because my father, who's from Illinois, they have septic tanks, and he told me it was going to cost me 30 grand. And I'm like, well, I need to make sure because I ain't spending 30 grand. And so that's when I found out I had 2 septic tanks. And I also found out that the half of the home that was an add-on was not attached to the original septic tank, nor was anything attached to the septic tank in the backyard. So I have a septic tank in the front and the back. So we made the seller pay to have those fixed. I honestly, and it may be because I'm a new kid, or it may just because it doesn't happen here in Orlando. But the first time I ever heard about pre-inspecting was in Clubhouse. I've never heard of that before. So
That's interesting. Just to be clear though, what you were saying, it's not that the home had an addition. There was a second system with your with the septic.
So what happened was he was a flipper. Okay. And the addition had been put on a while ago. It was not him that did it. He just did some refurbishment.
And it added bedroom count.
Yeah, it added a bedroom and a small bathroom, and basically they converted their porch. But there was a septic tank that he added, a brand new one in the backyard, because the front one was ancient, it was concrete, and the new ones are plastic. And so even if we had chosen just to run off the one in the backyard, it would not be at the capacity. It wouldn't have done the flow rate for the whole house. It wouldn't have served that. So what we ultimately did was connect both septic tanks back, clean up the front one and revitalize it, and then connect the back one. So if I had bought the house without a septic inspection, not only would nothing be connected to things, I would have stuff in the front and the backyard that was supposed to be underground, not underground.
And stuff, what do you exactly mean? No, I'm kidding. Because it's
You know what I mean.
But I 100% love having these septic conversations. We do shows on this all the time, and it's a weird thing that I actually know too much about around in this area. But it's interesting to me because as a seller and a listing agent, I wouldn't allow all these buyers agents to just come digging up. I mean, because you have to dig up certain areas to, get to the D box and all this other stuff. So I'm just going to we usually take a break at 10:30, but we're not doing that today. So Tim, we're just going to bypass that. But I do want to let all of our WATD listeners know that you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable here with Sharon McNamara. Of course, I am with my sidekick, Melissa Wallace, and I am the broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, and we are located here on the South Shore, and we are connecting Boston to the South Shore, the South Coast, and to the Cape and Islands. If you have any questions for us, or if you have any show ideas for us, please give us a call at the office. Melissa, where do you want them to call you?
781-826-8000.
All right, perfect. So let's get more into this whole thought of the liability of this. So Michelle, let's ask you this question. When you're suggesting to your seller to do this. Bring me along how the conversation goes and why you tell them this is a benefit for them. And then I'm curious, Anna and Roo, what, as a buyer's agent, I would be like, yeah, I'd really want my own report. So why don't you start us off, Michelle?
Mr. and Mrs. Seller, something that we have seen or that I have been doing with my sellers that's made the whole experience go so much more smoothly for everyone involved is to have a pre-inspection done. And here's why you might want to consider doing this, or why I would suggest doing this, is because we can get ahead of the 8 ball, if you will. We all like to have all the facts, right, laid out on the table before we make a decision on, especially on a big decision such as purchasing a home. You want to have all the facts laid out, right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? I mean, if you were the buyer and you were coming in to buy this home, wouldn't it be nice to have all the facts laid out on the table to the best of your ability to make that decision? Yeah, that makes sense, Michelle. Yeah, I get it. Okay, well, if we go ahead and have this pre-inspection done, we can A, get ahead of any issues that may arise. B, we can hand it out and my inspector will come back and inspect the things that he found and sign off on what we've had fixed to show that it is up to code and, you know, it passes. So, you know, with that being said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, would you like to have a smooth transaction? And would you like to, you know, go ahead through with this? Because then our buyers can't penny, nickel, and dime us on what they find because we've already shown it, and their offer needs to be, you know, in congruence with what's been disclosed. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, a lot of times you know of a really good plumber or a really good woodworker or whatever it may be. And you can go ahead and hire the contractors that you want to hire versus paying an astronomical amount of money for some contractor that they find, a random person, you know. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the buyers usually triple. It's, you know, if it's going to cost to paint a room $200, in their eyes, it's $600, right? Whatever it may be. So the buyers come in with huge numbers that we can just knock out before we even start down this road. Those would be the main talking points.
Interesting. So as you're talking, by the way, I just want you to know when Melissa and I are on our phones, it's only because we're getting text messages and we're on social media too. So we're not like ignoring you guys, but it's interesting because one of my agents here at Boston Connect, Emmy Flaherty, she's a full-time agent here at Boston Connect Real Estate. She just texted me and she said, I showed a house yesterday in Plymouth that had a pre-home inspection. So maybe it is something that is going to start around here.
I was just going to say, like, and I said this last show that I am looking for myself personally. And I don't know, maybe I have trust issues, but like, I just want to do my own inspection. Like and you always say you never want, you know, anybody to spend money that they don't have to. And I also am sort of going back in the past, like 2 years of what happened here, where a lot of people were waiving their home inspection. So a lot of our sellers were going to be like, well, you either buy my house or you don't. Like, offers, no matter what. It was just the mind frame of a lot of sellers in the past couple of years in our area. So I think that if you went to one of our sellers in the past couple of years, they'd be like, no, yeah, I'm not doing that.
The houses could be falling down and people didn't care about it. But I do think that it makes sense to me when I think about like this process.
No, it totally makes sense. But then I put my buyer's hat on and I'm like, no, I want one on my own.
So Anna and Roo, are your buyers also doing, and Michelle, are your buyers, if a pre-home inspection is already done, are your buyers going ahead and doing one themselves? No?
Yeah, I think Anna said that almost 100% of all of her sales, they didn't do home inspections. But
But Roo, you said that you highly recommend. And for us, we had an office policy that if one of our buyer clients was not going to do a home inspection, we had a waiver that basically said that that was their great idea, not ours.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I think because it's not the norm in Orlando, that, I mean, I've never come across a house that already had an inspection done on it. In fact, in many cases, I have had to pull teeth to get a seller's disclosure from other realtors in Orlando. I don't understand that. And then I've had people, the seller's disclosure is, I don't know for 100 questions. So it's basically worthless. So I think part of the problem is that we are the wild, wild west over here, even though we're not Dallas. And it tends to be buyer beware more than seller. So I think even if I came across a property that had a inspection done, I might still have that buyer beware hat on for my buyers, simply because that's not normal here. But I can understand, based on the conversation that both Michelle and Anna have put forth, I see the merit in doing it as a seller for sure. Because especially if it's an older home, if it's a brand new home, I don't know if I would push for it so much, because some of the sellers, it's a 2-year-old home. I mean, seriously, it's probably just fine. But if it's like and there are homes here that are built from 1950, 1970, 1960, I would probably heartily recommend they do their own inspection, for the exact fact that as a buyer, because I'm both a seller and a buyer agent, as a buyer's agent, yeah, we do tend to ask for a little bit more, because you got to start a higher so that you get to a place where it's acceptable typically in the negotiation. We all know that. So that is normal for a buyer to ask for more than they really want, because they're hopeful that they'll get exactly what they want moving forward. So, but I think it's worth pushing on an older home for sure.
I have two thoughts. The first thought, and it came to me when you were just saying that, was, I think it definitely depends. I could see a lot of pre-home inspections on certain properties, not on all the properties that we see, at least. But, maybe properties that could use some TLC, and it's better to just put it out there and say, this is what is going on with the house, and, give me your best offer. I could see that.
And what do I always say? The house is priced according to the condition that it's in. Right?
Yeah. And I think that having a pre-home inspection sort of backs that up, though. Like, what the condition is because you've done a pre-home inspection. So I think that would definitely help sort of your case if any other like buyer's agent came and say, well, this is the value that we see. It's like, okay, well, we did a pre-home inspection and this is how we came to this number. Secondly, personally, with me purchasing my first home, we say this a lot too, and we do talk about home inspections on the show, is it's not just about finding what's wrong with the house. It's also educating the buyer. So somebody who's never owned a property or never even lived in a house, have always lived in apartments. Do you know where the water shutoff is? Do you know where all these things are? Me, I've never lived in a house. So when I did my home inspection, I was like right next to him the whole time, like learning, okay, this is what he was giving you a piggyback. Yeah. It's very educational for me. And I ended up walking away, but I probably will do another home inspection because every home is different.
Yeah. Anna, let me ask you this. So I do a pre-home inspection and something comes up with a crack in the foundation, or that there's mold-like substance, or that the roof needs to be replaced. Some of these bigger ticket items. So then what happens? This is where my angst is with this, because maybe you have, like right now too, my niche tends to be more working with the older boomer generation. Either they're selling themselves and they haven't done anything to their home in 50 years, or they're selling the younger boomers are selling their parents' house who haven't done anything. So what do you do in those situations when the people don't have any money?
Yeah. So yet another similarity, Sharon, cut it out, because we also, serve pretty much the same demographic. Here's the thing, where it really starts and how you determine whether or not someone should do one. And I want to come back to the buyer and whether or not they would do their own. Wow, so many thoughts. First, let's talk about the seller again. So, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's figure out what the objective is here. Where are you going? When I sell your home, where are you going? How are you getting there? When do you have to be there by? That matters. Why? Because if I'm selling your home and you're using the equity to purchase the other home and you're tight on budget, right? And, a $30,000 septic system, an $80,000 stucco issue, a $20,000 roof, whatever that it may be, that amount of money can actually prevent you from getting to where you want to go, right? If those dollars matter. Now, agents don't like what I'm about to say, but if you're truly coming at this as being a consultant, if you're here to protect and advise your client to the best of your ability, you may actually not wind up listing that home. I had one where the septic did fail. And guess what? They just needed to sit on that seat and flush that toilet about a year's worth of times before they now were ready to sell. But I'm happy about that. Do you think that I want to get a seller into a situation where they're under contract for another home only to find out that during process that they're going to be out $30,000 to a client that dollar matters? So what I'm getting at is you not only encourage a pre-home inspection, you have to understand what your client's needs are. You have to understand how are they getting from here to there and what amount of time and what do they need to happen from this home, right? So if it's a matter of an estate, which I do plenty of those, I work with the, adult children on estates. Oftentimes they don't want to do a darn thing. Great. So how do you want to see this happen? You want a bunch of investors to offer you 50 cents on the dollar because they're going to assume that things are wrong with it? Or do you want to just simply tell them, hey, here's the facts. Here is what is and what isn't about the home. Now make your decision on the price, right? So I do those often as well, where we're not even, these are like quote unquote off market properties. That means something different in every state. Not going to get into that for this conversation, right? But there's definitely value for that seller as well. The buyer who's going to do their own inspection, let's go back 5 years and 6 years, 7 years. And we weren't in the crazy, we're a seller's market, but we certainly weren't what we were in the past 2 to 3 years. And that buyer wants to do their own. Honest to God, in those situations, and back then I was probably running about 60-70% of the time where the buyer waived the inspection versus 100% of the time. Here's what would happen. The buyer agent would say, oh, Spotlight Home Inspections. I was going to refer you to them anyway. So looks like you just got a free report. So the most important thing is using very reputable inspectors, very known inspectors in your area. So, and ASHI certified if you can do that as well, right? So you want them accredited, certified, you want them to be the best of the best. You as a buyer agent, that has to be the guy that you want there at your client's behalf, right? That's not an overwhelming, like making a mountain out of a molehill, but certainly not leaving things off, right? That's not the point of the seller's disclosure. So if you come at this with, referring who you genuinely believe is the best in the situation and also already has a reputation and trust among the local realtors, you're going to do yourself a huge favor by encouraging, that home inspector is number one. Number two, let's say the buyer and their agent do their own inspection anyway, and they hire Joe Schmo from wherever, right? And Joe Schmo comes in and he thinks his job, because he's getting paid $500 is to find a minimum of $5,000 worth of things wrong with the property, right? But now Joe Schmo knows that this reputable company has already done a pre-inspection.
That's a very good point. I like that point.
How likely is Joe Schmo to come in and make a mountain out of a molehill? What a reputable company has already said ABC. right? So it's protection, it's leverage, it's seamless. There's all the reasons. But again, the more you understand about your own client's needs and what they're trying to accomplish is when you can explain to them what the right solutions are. And I don't even know if I answered your question, by the way, because I forgot.
You absolutely did. And I know, Melissa, you said that we have a question.
Yeah,
on
just
social
a
media.
question for Roo. Is the order in Florida different with the home inspection after purchase and sales, or is it before the purchase and sales?
It happens after. So basically you have, after executed contract, meaning both parties have agreed to the contract, you have a stipulated time that you as the buyer have said you'll go, this is how long you'll take to have the inspection done and to respond to the seller based on the findings of that inspection. And then the default to that is 15 days. During the wild and crazy, there were times when the selling agent would require 5 days max, 7 days max. So to have an executed time, you truly had to have your group of inspectors that you could call and say, can you be there in a day? Because you didn't want to wait to the last day to get your report to the seller. So that's kind of how that would shake out.
I can't believe we only have 4 minutes left in this show. So ladies, I hope that you will come back and join us again so we can continue on this conversation, because one thing that I want to discuss, and maybe you can just give me a high five or something. Do all of you use a seller disclosure in your state? Yeah. So we're no. I'm a no. So, and I know, and that's something else I know. So, and that was one thing as the broker of the company, I could make that decision, and I decided not to do that. And I know, Roo, I believe you're with Coldwell Banker, and I think EXP, and Michelle, you EXP as well. So, and this is one thing I love to show. I mean, this is my show, and we are not competitors in this industry. We collaborate. We just wear a different colored logo. These are some of the most wonderful women that I have ever come across through Clubhouse. I feel very grateful for that. And being able to have contacts in other states is just so important. But it is interesting that we can learn from each other, but we don't use a seller disclosure. And the reason I don't is because there's a line on there that the broker has to sign that. I've never lived in that house, and chances are I never even slept one night. I don't know if the seller is telling the truth or not. So we chose not to do it, but that's going to be another conversation. We have 2 minutes left. This conversation went way too fast, but I want to give the last 2 minutes opportunity real quick to most importantly, give your information. I don't want to say especially, Anna, to leave you out, but to the 2 women who are in Georgia and in Orlando. We have a lot of snowbirds coming from Anna's area and from my area. So we want to make sure that we get your information out there, and we'll make sure that everything is out on our blog as well. So Michelle, you can go first.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me, Sharon. Michelle Meinhart from Atlanta, Georgia, and you can connect with me at sellmichelle.com.
Say that one more time.
Michelle Meinhart from Atlanta, Georgia, and you can connect with me at sellmichelle.com, and that's Michelle with 2 L's.
Perfect. And Roo, how about you?
My name's Roo Klaers, like Little Roo from Winnie the Pooh. I live down the street from the mouse, and I kicked a lot in the pouch. My easiest way is your home, your castle. I'm on all the social medias. That's my website as well. And feel free, actually, it's yourhome-yourcastle.com. Feel free to connect with me there, or connect with me on Insta, TikTok, Facebook, whichever makes it easy for you.
Perfect. And one more time so everybody can find you. What is that website?
Yourhome-yourcastle.com.
Perfect. And Anna, how about for you? Hey, I'd love to go to your area, by the way, but not in the winter because I already have that here. But and all of you women going to Tampa? Are you all going to St. Petersburg? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to see you there. Anna, give everybody your information, because you know what? You're also a large hub. We're a hub here in Boston. So we have a lot of relocation that's going on between our cities. So give everybody your information as well.
Mine's a lot easier than my last name, but I'm Anna Abbatemarco, and my link digital card to get you to all things me is Anna with 2 N's, Anna10k.com. That'll take you to contact info, website, social handles, and whatever. Anna10k.com.
Perfect. Anna10k.com. And if you didn't get any of that information, you can call us 781-826-8000. Of course, you can find us on bostonconnect.com. Tim, I think that I can't hear.
Time to go.
All right. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you. So thank you, ladies. So we're not on the radio anymore, but we are sort of live still here on Facebook and everything. So are there any last?
TD FM Marshfield, WBMS Brockton.
Hold on.
South Shore's first choice for live team coverage of breaking news, emergency traffic, and severe weather. WATD. Streaming online.
All right, so we just got rid of the radio, but we're still live on Facebook. So it's just with time, you know, they have to get us off there on time. Are there any last thoughts that you want to share with us? Yes, Roo.
I have a question
Yes.
for you that do the inspections. Do you do WinMit and WDO?
I
Does that
don't
exist
know.
for you guys?
I have no idea what that is. What is that?
Okay. Well, in Orlando or in Florida in general, you have to do a wind mitigation study for anything that is a certain age for the roof because of hurricanes. I assume most of you don't do that. It has to do with the number of straps that hold the roof down. And then the other one, the WDO, is wood destroying organisms. Do y'all do those kind of inspections in addition to a regular?
No, and that's one of the that was asked as well was that might be another great conversation, especially for people who are moving to different areas. Because when you were talking about mold earlier, I'm just thinking Fort Myers area and Naples and everything. You must have different inspections because that's going to be a mold in like just a nest over there.
Oh yeah, that's in fact anything. It's kind of like when you bought cars.
Yeah, I was just thinking that like not a lot of people from up here want to buy cars from Florida because the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Louisiana had a big problem when they had the giant flooding happen there, and all the cars that were manufactured or sold there, and they shipped them to other states. You had to follow the history of that car to make sure it did not come from Louisiana during that time frame, because you were buying a flooded car. Even if it's been refurbished.
So or Sharon, I do apologize. I'm being summoned because I have to head to New York, but I will say for the wood destroying tests, we call them a stucco test, but they're actually a moisture reading test. And that's a huge problem here because you don't have the warmth that you guys do. But nonetheless, Sharon, if you ever want to have a inspector who specializes in stucco or whatnot, I can have him come on to one of your podcasts or Zoom, whatever it is that you want.
Yeah.
Loves to teach all this. Yet I got to get to New York. So guys,
Thank you so much. And we'll get together again too. So anytime, if you guys have a topic that you think that would be good, because you could also use little tidbits of this too, to do your social media with. So feel free. I'm on every Tuesday night and Saturday morning. So we do this live and then we make it, you know, we get a lot of leverage out of it because it becomes YouTube channel and podcast and radio. So we get a lot out of that. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. Michelle, did you have any final thoughts for the final seconds here before we tune off?
No, I was just going to ask you, do you send us the video then of this for us to chop up or?
Yeah, we can do that. Yep, we'll do that on Monday. Our administrative coordinator, she'll come in. She'll upload it and put it onto Zoom, and then we'll send it off to you.
Thank you so much.
Send you the audio as well too. So once
Thank
it's
you.
passed.
Yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed this. Honestly, I didn't think I would have a lot to say. Because it was pre-inspection. I'm like, I don't do that.
Yeah, well, and you know what, when we have many sort of guests, it's trying to get a little bit of each too, you know what I mean? So if individually there's anything that you ever want to do and talk about, feel free, just let me know, because, you know, we have 2 shows and we have over 100 shows a year. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, ladies, it was great to see you. Have a wonderful morning.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Okay.